Alright, and hello. It is Monday, August 9th, 2021. I'm cutting a video here real quickly about one topic in particular I kind of had an epiphany with, discovered today, but I'm going to also publish a video in the near future, and I just kind of want to put out the ideas here right now that are in my head about it. It's kind of like it's going to be about a game I played as a kid called Alpha Centauri, and it's going to be about fungus as well, and it's going to be about how that relates to what the world's going to be shaped like in the future and how it all kind of fits together. But I'll give a rough idea so this way I can kind of take credit for the discoveries that in the game Alpha Centauri developed in 1999. All the factions that exist in it are in the 21st century, and they're all mostly there except for kind of like the university is not quite there, but the rest of it's there. And what happens in that game is kind of a rough idea of the 21st century, or what the rest of the 21st century will look like and the century after that. So I'll give some clues there as towards that. That'll be a video that I'll publish down the road, just I don't feel like publishing it right now because it takes too long to cut and to create. And so I'll put this video out on, this video is actually on how to, what happens in disagreements, international disagreements, when order breaks down in, let's say, with the Illuminati, because the Illuminati are an international club, and so what happens when they have disagreements and they have quarrels, let's say. So one outcome is that, you saw basically in after World War I and II, they had a drive to make the world one, which is the opposite of Psalm 47. The opposite of Psalm 47 is one world Luciferian order, not under God, but under Lucifer. So it is a one world system, but developed, but it's geared towards the Luciferian elite one world order. And so it's, and you'll notice that exactly after what's called the Hegelian dialect occurs, being, after conflict occurs, after there's like order, let's say after there's order out of chaos, which is what one of the methodologies for creating laws and for creating a new governments are. Once that happens, such as World War I and II, you have basically the League of Nations, then you have the UN, and the rest is kind of history. Even though both those are kind of like not so big on or they're not so they're not too important. They're kind of important. That's one of the things I'll show in the video about Alpha Centauri is the role of the UN in the future, because UN Agenda 20 is called UN Agenda 21 and or Agenda 2030 for a reason, as the the UN plays a salient role in it. So anyway, basically this video is on like what happens when they disagree internationally. Now apparently, supposedly, there was let me look up this guy's channel here real quickly. There was a disagreement a while ago in how to settle debt issues with the Japanese. And so we're not so sure what exactly happened, and I'm not so sure what happened. But this is some guesswork, mind you, about what did happen. So I'm going to pull up this guy's profile real quickly. It might take me a minute to do, because just to show you who gave me this original. He gave me portions of this idea, but he didn't give me too much of it. Oh, there it is, my subs. Okay. Okay, so this guy who's a German national, if his channel still exists, I'm just giving him credit here, so this way I can show you who gave me the idea. This guy gave me, there we go, and this channel no longer has videos, go figure. Okay, so a lot of YouTube was pulled, but this guy right here, Harold Klaus Vela, he's actually a German national, so his name's probably not pronounced like that. I don't speak much German. I do speak a bit of Spanish, though, and he's definitely German, a German national. And so he didn't, he published a video, he pulled all of his videos because he was told to do so by the elite in Germany, most likely. So that's why he pulled it. But he gave me this idea, and I'm going to give him credit here, of that a long while ago, after what caused the tidal wave, let's say, in supposedly, this is what the debate is that what caused the tidal wave in and around Fukashima, in and around near Tokyo and Japan in general in 2011, that it was man-made possibly. Now, some might say that's like impossible to do, but I'll show you here how you can do it, and I'm also going to show you why it happened. What he claims happened was that there was a breakdown in relations among the Illuminati, because the Illuminati, as I said, are an international club. By the way, the elite all fake going into space internationally, and they have agreements on basically vaxxing everyone and basically bringing in this order. But sometimes this order breaks down. So they have these ties that bind them together, and the ties are secret society ties that bind all the elite everywhere together, no matter what race or country they're from. They're all bind together by Freemasonry and by a secret order. Mostly secret societies such as the Rosicrucian Jesuits and Illuminati and things like that. They're bound by secret contracts really up high. So anyway, this is what happens though when they break down these relations and there's issues. And I'll explain this to you briefly. This is what supposedly happened in 2011. They had issues with the Japanese apparently wanted to be repaid in hard assets. Supposedly, this is what is claimed. And I don't know how true that is, but this is what this guy claimed right here, this Herald man. This is what he claims is the case, that they wanted hard assets like land and gold and things like that. And so that didn't happen. And also, who knows where the Libyan gold went to, because we did kind of bomb Libya. The United States bombed Libya, even though it's French Mirjets. Libya was bombed with American pilots on board those craft. And so we bombed Libya, and then the gold was then looted. Who knows if that gold went to the Saudis, or if it went to the Japanese, or who knows where it went to, because that gold might have repaid them too, because the Japanese, like I said, wanted hard assets like land and metals and things like that. And the American Illuminati did not want to do that, and they wanted to repay them differently, apparently, supposedly. So this is how things supposedly went down, and how they basically caused, how they basically configured they configured a way of dealing with the situation. It's very, what's the word for it? It uses misdirection, because you can always blame the weather. You can't really control the weather, they say, right? And you can't really control forces of nature. Well, I'll show you that you can control forces. I've showed you on the past videos that you can control forces of nature, and you can also control the weather. You know, you control all these things, and I'll show you briefly how you do this. So this gentleman gave me this original idea. He did not come up with the idea of how to cause a man-made tidal wave and how to throw it in one direction, which I developed. I'm the one who developed that here, and I'm going to show you here how it works. So this man gave me this original idea about Fukashima and how that was caused. So that was an 11 meter high tidal wave. Okay, so it's an 11 meter high tidal wave. And so, by the way, I'm going to also show you in this video in a little bit how it's difficult for the Japanese to send a wave in one direction. Maybe the Chinese could do it, or maybe the Chinese could do it, and that's a maybe, and I'll show you how it's difficult to do this. I'll show you just how difficult and how much effort this takes. It does take quite a bit of effort, and you have to have quite a bit of know-how, even some basic know-how. And this is, by the way, this is a theory, and you can disprove this theory, and you can say what you want about it. And yeah, I could probably be refuted this theory pretty easily, but you got to wonder how a tidal wave went in one direction just towards Japan. And I'm going to show you right now how this works. So this is my idea that I developed, and I'm going to show you briefly how it works. Okay, so the agreement was that the Americans said no. The American Illuminati disagreed with the Japanese Illuminati and said, we do not wish to repay you in hard assets because we kind of don't have them too much. Well, it's not that we don't have them, it's just that they didn't want to repay them in hard assets such as land and metals. They said, no, we'll give you dollars instead, or something like that, something along that line, or they repay them how they're repaying them now, which is kind of like, it's a long story of how that's working out right now, and I'm not going to get into that, but I'm going to get into this thing that happened a while ago, this disagreement that happened. So I'm going to show you real quickly the idea. Okay, so the idea is to basically make a tidal wave go in one direction. You have to take almost a portion of a tectonic plate and or a mountain range underwater. Now, they've claimed only recently that they're starting to map the ocean floor. I believe that they've mapped the ocean floor, portions of it, a little while ago than they claim, because they're only claiming now that they have like very little of the ocean floor mapped. So maybe back in 2011, they had some of it mapped, and they had some important pieces mapped. And so, because in order to do this, you have to map the ocean floor, and you have to know what plates are below there. So that's step one, is that you have to have a good map of the portion of the ocean floor that you wish to use as your we'll call it oh God, it's like a ramp almost, the way it works. And you can see by the photo here that this is how it's going to work, or how it's going to roughly work. So like I said, the tidal wave went in one direction. Now, if it was a bomb, it would go off, and it would just the tidal wave would go in both directions. It would come to the Oregon coast where I live out here, and California and Washington and all that, and it would hit here too. But it only hit Japan, so you have to wonder, how did they create a tidal wave that can only go in one direction? It's very difficult, but it is possible, I think, to do. So what happened is that they took a portion of a tectonic plate, and or just maybe just a portion, or just a mountain range, let's say underwater, an underwater mountain range. They took it and they lifted up a portion of that plate, and they lifted it up like it was a ramp going up in one direction. They lifted it up, let's say, going from right to left. They lifted it up, and it went up like a ramp, like in this picture here. You see, it went up like in this picture. Oh, I drew that in by mistake. Let me erase that. It went up like in this picture here. And so trying to erase that. Just the eraser on this thing doesn't work so well. Okay, we're going to keep that little blob there because I don't feel like erasing it. So it went up like in this picture, basically. It went up like a ramp in one direction with an entire mountain range, a big mountain range too. So they can do this because they have an earthquake machine that can basically move large masses of earth. And they can earthquakes sometimes occur when a whole tectonic plate moves in one direction. It would move. This would be called. It's not shearing. I think it's fracturing, actually. This was a combination of shearing and fracturing of a tectonic plate. I think that's the words we're looking for here. I'm not 100% certain on earthquake terminology, but that's roughly what the tectonic plate would do. It would shear, it would fracture, it would go in one direction, being the plate would move like this, like a ramp, like it would go from it would all go pointing westward towards Japan, basically. And so in order to get them to comply, the Japanese to comply and to agree, they made a tidal wave go in one direction. And now, how is this? Now, the other step that makes this difficult is that you have to have the wind going in one direction, because once the wave will actually, it won't all go in one direction, right? Even with you just lifting up a mountain range like in this picture here, or a tectonic plate like in this picture here, you would have to control the wind too, because otherwise you would have a ripple effect that would come on the west coast of America and or Mexico too. Even, it would hit that area. So what they did was they then took the wind. We have weather manipulating technology that we've developed through the years, and we definitely have this available. And so they took, wind goes from high pressure to low pressure. Okay, so let me get the. Actually, it's those little things popping up. Wind goes from high pressure to low pressure, as in this little doodle I did here. So they took their weather manipulating machinery and used that too. And how they use the weather manipulating machinery is basically, yeah. Well, I explain in other videos how it works. It works with electromagnetism mostly, but it also works with flying planes overhead. While I'm showing, radar stations here, it works with a combination of Doppler radar, radar stations, cell phone towers, and planes flying trailing missions to basically manipulate the wind and or weather systems. So that's kind of how it's done, and or HARP arrays too. So anyway, so that's what they did. They basically, because they had to throw the wind in one direction as well, all pointing towards Japan, because otherwise that wave would then come back onto us, basically. A small portion of it would. It wouldn't be that big, because if you can make the tectonic plate and or mountain range do what I showed in that picture, it would probably go in one direction, you would assume. So that's kind of like an idea of how this happened and how they did that, and why this is the case. And yeah, this is what happens sometimes when international agreements break down. And so what they can do is they can then blame the weather and not blame, use misdirection as a wizard would use, and blame the weather and or forces of nature, and not blame the fact that it was, caused deliberately. So this way they comply with the fact that they didn't want to hand them over hard assets. So anyway, that's possibly what happened, and that's how I see it. And so I'm going to cut this video short, and I hope you all have a good day.